Before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Kader Khan, and one of the lead volunteer of Testoper community. The Testoper community is run by the volunteers, like you, for the people like you, right? So that's what the Testoper is all about. I'll briefly talk about it for a couple of minutes, and then we will start the session. Before that, certain governance here, right? Housekeeping activities. If you look at the chat, right, the Testoper Codeathon WhatsApp link will be posted. Okay, and just give me a second here. If it is not already posted by the team, I will post it quickly here. All right. Okay. Copy link. All right, someone is already posted there. This is great. All right, I believe it's the same thing. Yes. So this is the closed WhatsApp group for those people who are attending the Testoper Codeathon. So please click that WhatsApp link and you can join them. And why do we use WhatsApp? We use WhatsApp only for the emergency communication. In case the speaker has some issues to join or anything that is emergency, we use that WhatsApp. So that's the first place for you guys to join. Now, after joining that WhatsApp, what you have to do is you have to provide your email address and the name. Okay, we will not add everyone into the Microsoft Teams that we use for the collaboration platform because of the security reason. I'll tell you what it is. So we use Microsoft Teams. Can you all see my screen, by the way? Can you all see it?
Yes, Kader.
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome, guys. Great. So we use Microsoft Teams for the collaboration. Okay. So you can send your name and email address if you are interested to join the Microsoft Teams. So the first step is you have to join the WhatsApp, and through WhatsApp, you're going to send us the email address and your name. We will add you into the Microsoft Teams. So if you are in the Microsoft Teams, then you can collaborate with the community before and after the event. And there is a job channel, tech teaser channel, you can join and collaborate, right? So this is like a Slack. If you have been using the Slack in the past, or those who are already using the Microsoft Teams, you would particularly know about this. So please, if you are interested, we won't add everyone who is registered in the Eventbrite into Microsoft Teams, because we wanted to add the people only who are interested to join in the collaboration platform, right? And make sure that as per the bylaws, we are able to follow that, right? So just want to make sure that you understand that and join the Microsoft Teams for the collaboration. So number one, WhatsApp. Number two, Microsoft Teams. Number three, let me quickly explain what Testoper is. I need to open quickly something here. Just a minute. Sorry, I was in the other meeting. It took some time here, but we should be okay. All right. Perfect. Awesome. Okay. So a little bit, I want to explain about what Testoper is. I will use one single three or four slides, but I'll just use the key code words that you would remember. See, the Testoper circles around four keywords. Okay. The first one is the continuous learning, and the second one is future workforce. Third one is the future skills and innovation, and the fourth one is people-led grassroots movement. What does it actually mean? It's pretty simple. See, the government provides a lot of facilities for people like you and me to develop our skills.
Is your voice speaking only for me?
How about others? Can you all hear my voice okay?
Yeah, it's okay for us.
Yeah, it's okay for us.
You need to start the session quickly. You're the speaker. All right, perfect. So if you see the screen here, see, the government is providing a lot of facilities for us, and enterprises are providing a lot of facilities for us. But we as an individual, if we don't have our mindset to continuously learn and become successful, right? He will not become successful. This is the basic fundamental thing, right? There's a lot of surveys are done. There's a lot of things that are done, which basically says that the people believe, the individuals like you and me believe it is our responsibility to update our future skills and innovation. This is very, very important. And that's where the people-led grassroots movement came. And we all, we started this community. It's a year-old community. When we started this community, the way we started is like you, right? We all came together and we said, hey, we as a people have to create a community, which is people-led grassroots movement, to help other people to change their mindset, to continuously learn future skills and innovation, so they can become a future workforce. That's the fundamental thing. And that's how this Testopper community came into an existence. And you joining today basically means you joined this people-led grassroots movement to help yourself and help others, right? You are welcome to come and join as volunteers. You're welcome to come and train. And we want people to, join to learn, and also train to learn. We want both the things because we wanted this to be a people-led grassroots movement. And as a Testopper community, that is all we are, right? We are a people-led grassroots movement, and we are a non-profit impact organization who wants to really empower every one of you to create that continuous learning mindset, to learn your future skills and innovation so you can become a future workforce. You can advance your career, intrapreneurial and entrepreneurial skills. And we do number of programs. You should go to the Eventbrite and you look at it. The year 2021 program, we call it as a Connected Industries and Automation. That's the theme. And we do number of programs this year. And the idea is every program that we do, for example, Codeathon today is going to help you to learn tools and frameworks. Hackathon we are going to do will help you to learn entrepreneurship skill. And we are doing this Testopper project every Friday, and that was run by me. And we bring people together, form the team, and we help them to build something and become an entrepreneur or give back to the community, right? So we have different programs that we do, and each program targeted to help you to develop one skill, and collectively all these different programs will help you to become a future workforce. So now when I say collectively all these programs is going to help you to become future workforce, what does it mean? You need to understand what is the definition of the future workforce, right? Let me explain. See, if you take 10-15 years ago, people like me even, right? I have more than 20 years of experience. I used to be expert on one thing, but in this last 20 years I have learned that being expert of one thing, I become an outdated person, right? So what do I have to do? What's happening today? Every day new technology comes, new programming languages, new tools and frameworks, new technologies, new IT architecture and interfaces, meaning cloud, cybersecurity. There's so many new things are coming. We cannot be master of all, but at least we need to have a breadth of knowledge, how each of these things connects together. This is very, very important, right? Not only having the depth of knowledge, but the breadth of knowledge. So if tomorrow you want to become an entrepreneur, or your organization wants you to work in another field, because you have this breadth of knowledge, you already know how to connect dots, then you should be able to easily pivot yourself and work on that new project. And that is what the future workforce definition is all about. A future workforce, if you become a part of future workforce, it means you have breadth and depth of knowledge, and you are flexible, adaptable, so you can work on any technologies quickly, and you can pivot yourself and quickly do that. That's what the future workforce is all about. In order for you to become future workforce, you have to develop breadth and depth of knowledge, right? Mostly the breadth of knowledge and depth in few areas. And you have to develop your future skills and innovation. How do you develop? By attending all these different programs that we do, and also the programs that are done outside. So you develop this breadth of knowledge, and you always are the future workforce and able to do things better. That's what it is, right? End of the day, I wanted you to remember one thing, right? Testopper community is a people-led grassroots movement. It is not funded by the government. It is not funded by the enterprises. Of course, in future they will fund us to do this program better and better. But today, how it is happening is we people came together. We are 25 to 30 people like you running the show, right? It's not run by an organization. It is people together. We are running the show with all these different programs. We are helping as a people, another people like us all And by doing that, what we are doing is we are creating a lot of individuals with future skills and innovation. And if they work in their company and their company gets benefited, right? And because you are working in a company, you have a job, and you buy and sell things, and the economy booms and governments gets benefit, right? So we are a people-led grassroots movement. That's the most important thing I wanted you all to understand. By the people, for the SMEs, and for the government. The last slide for today. This is our Testopper ecosystem. And I will send the brochure to you all in the chat. Please download it and send it all to your friends, colleagues, and also to your companies and HR to let them know that we people are running this show, and ask their support to help us. So in a long story short, in one single summary, we are the Testopper community. We focus on 3 personas: software developers, software testers, automation experts, and operations experts who operate the softwares and networks, right? We focus on these 3 personas from the engineer level all the way to the CEOs and CTOs, and we help them to develop future skills and innovation through various programs that we do. Now, we are a tech community, so all these programs are focused on intelligent technologies, right? Like blockchain, IoTs, and many things, and which runs on IT architecture and interfaces like cloud, cybersecurity, that cuts across all these different intelligent technologies. So we basically help you to develop future skills and innovations on intelligent technologies and IT architecture and interfaces. So what happens, end result? You are able to work in different industries, able to provide products, working with your company, software products, services, and solutions, and work in different departments like product management, R&D, and testing, and so on. And by doing that, you are a future workforce. The future workforce is not one day thing, right? You have to have this continuous learning mindset, and you have to do that throughout your life to be a future workforce. And we are inclusive organization. We help everyone, indigenous people, women, youth, freelancers, everyone is welcome to join, and so on. So having said that, I strongly believe you understood what Testopper community is all about. And with that, let me invite Sumit Mahajan to start this first Codeathon session on test automation on Tavern. Sumit, over to you. Guys, remember one thing, WhatsApp link is there in the chat. Click the WhatsApp link, join the group, send your names and the email address. We will add you in Microsoft Teams, so you can collaborate, ask questions, share, explain, and everything to all the community people. Remember, people-led grassroots movement. So these 2 steps I really wanted you to remember. And third, I will also send a brochure in the chat. Please download it, keep it, and send it to your friends, colleagues. Spread the news and make this people-led grassroots movement really successful, because we are unique, right? And help us to do that. Again, over to you, Sumit. I'll stop here.
Thanks, Kader. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. All right. Okay, great. So I'm gonna jump straight to the topic. So the first thing that I'm gonna talk about is the topic that we have selected today is karate. It's a kind of evolution in Java frameworks for API testing. So we all started with initially with SOAP and then moved on to the rest assured. In the same line of frameworks, Karate DSL has come up with a domain specific language, which is built on top of the API testing community that is there. Initially, we used to write a lot of boiler code in order to achieve the API testing, but Karate has solved that. It has made that automation simple enough to write, even for non-developers, right? I won't say that you don't need to learn the language. The idea is that you don't have to learn in depth in order to achieve automation, right? And there is very less boiler code in this API automation. So you basically can ramp up on your testing pretty quickly, right? So if there is any API project that comes into your organization and you guys want to think that why not automate it and rather than doing it manually using Postman or other tools? This will help solve that problem, right? The boiler code is really small, and uh, a lot of features have been added to this in order to make it a one-stop solution, not just for the API testing, but now they've come up with the features that includes how do you do mocks, right? How do you do performance testing, and how do you integrate UI automation into the same framework? So they are evolving, uh, but in the sense that they want to be a single unified framework for performance testing, UI automation, as well as the API testing. Uh, Considering the current state of Karate, API testing is the most mature product in the framework. UI testing is evolving. It's not there yet. And performance testing is definitely what you can utilize uh, with both API and UI testing, right? Uh, and it's open source, so free for all. Uh, so that's one of another great feature for it. Uh, Another great feature that it has, which Rest Assured doesn't have, was JSON is native to its syntax, so it makes it much more simpler to read the response and to parse those responses, uh, and to add validation and checks on top of it, right? Uh, a lot of features are there in terms of not detailed uh, Java programming knowledge is required until unless you are doing really complex API testing. Then definitely you will need to write complex functions uh, in order to achieve the depth of the testing, right? But if your testing is not complex, then you don't even need uh, deep Java knowledge. It's all in BDD syntax. If you guys are not aware of BDD, it's behavior-driven development and testing. Uh, so what it means is it uses Cucumber or Gherkin language in order to read and write the test. And also, you don't have to write step definition separately in karate because it's domain specific. It's kind of domain specific language. So don't need to write very the step definitions that you used to write with any Cucumber implementation in Java or any Gherkin implementation in Java.
So that's the thing. Like you're not sharing anything, right?
Yeah, not right now, but I will start sharing. I'm just giving you the features for it, and then I will showcase each and every feature on what I'm meant by those. Right. All right. Okay. I think that's pretty much on the feature side. The compatibility part is it's designed for the responses on JSON, HTTP, GraphQL, and XML. So it is compatible with those responses. Uh, and then again, it has a very Gherkin based data driven uh, test that we write in Gherkin the same way we can write it here. So if you guys are already familiar with how to write Cucumber test, it's not going to be very different. The only good part is that you don't have to write the step definitions. So I'm going to share my screen now to show what I meant by some things. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
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 Right. So the first thing, okay, let me open So this is the GitHub page because since it's open source, its repository lies in GitHub. It's developed by Intuit, which has created multiple products for testing, as well as you must be aware of QuickBooks and other things that Intuit provides. Those are their products, but definitely this is one of their creation as well. I'm not going to go into the details of what they've written, but if you want to see the Gherkin language, it's like scenario given and when then. This is the Gherkin language or the feature file that you used to write. And then everything is built in on a lot of things. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new project and see how this works. So let's create a new project. So the first thing I'm using the ID is IntelliJ community version. So you feel free to use any ID that you like. You can use Eclipse, you can use Visual Studio or any ID that you guys think you're comfortable with. I'm going to use IntelliJ for the training purpose. So I'm going to open a new project. And I'm going to use Maven as my project, which will add a POM file for your settings purpose. So the archetype that I'm going to add is karate. So the group ID will be com.intuit.karate. And then artifact ID is going to be karate archetype. So why I'm doing this, you can do it from the scratch as well. This will make it easier for you. It will come up with all the dependencies that you need. You don't have to add manually. It's an archetype, which basically means that you will have a pre-built setting POM file and dependencies associated with it. Plus, maybe some sample codes that you're gonna have it there. The version that I'm gonna add, I'm gonna click on OK. Once I'm done, it's added here, which is Intuit com.intuit.karate, karate archetype, and the version is 0.9.6. I'm gonna click next. I'm gonna give the name as karate and then this is the settings file where it will get stored, the repository. I'm going to change it. I'm going to open a new window. And once it adds, it's going to download all the resources of this archetype, and it will create a project for you. You can do it manually as well. You can follow the same process. If you're creating a Maven project, you can use a default Maven archetype, and it will add POM and stuff for you. And then you have to add dependencies manually on intuit.karate. So this is the Karate Apache version, and we're going to use JUnit 5 to run these tests. And then it will have source test Java as the main directory because we are doing testing. So it's going to put it under test. And then it's going to have Maven compiler plugin and Surefire plugin for the build as well as reporting. So it's finished. So I'm going to open the project, and this is what I've received. So the main thing is the POM file, which I've explained. It will have some dependencies already added to it, and then it will have the directory structure listed here on the test resources, and it will have your plugin information. Then what it will have is it will have a feature file already listed for testing. So I'll explain what feature file, in what format we have to write the feature file, and explain the working of it. So I'm going to use the users.feature. I'm going to disable the inspection. So it has created a users examples folder. Under that, it has a users folder, and then it has a it has created a user.feature file, and then it has a runner file, which is users.runner, and then an example test, which is basically a parent runner. So let's start with the users.feature. The first thing that you need to write is the feature name. The feature is sample karate test script. For help, see this. This is the name of the feature. Background is where you will write your URL. If you don't, you want to make it as a step definition in the feature file, but you don't want to write given when then you can just put a star on top of it, and then you can add your details on there. So if I look here, the URL is https json placeholder.typecode.com, and then you write different scenarios that you want to test, right? So the first scenario is get all users and then get the first user by ID, right? So let me comment this out, right? We are only going to run one and see if that works for us. So I'm going to comment everything, and I'm just going to keep this, which means I'm going to go on this URL, going to the path users. So when I say I'm going to the path users, I'm going to check this URL, right? So let's do that. So this is my URL, and this is the path. So if I enter here, I will receive a JSON like this, right? So this is what I'm expecting. If I hit this URL and I hit the path users, I should get this as a response, right? Once I have this, I'm gonna use the method get, right? So let's see what happens when I hit it, right? Okay, I'm gonna do a refresh and see what happens. So what I've done is I've pressed F12, went into the Chrome debugger and clicked on the network tab, right? Now, if I go to the users, so the request method is get, and this is my request URL, and this is my request headers. And if I look at the response, this is the response I'm getting. So this is exactly what I'm targeting, right? My target is to get this response by hitting this request method, right? I don't have to write everything. I don't have to add a lot of headers. It depends if you really need to add more details, especially when you're doing any kind of authentication or authorization, then those headers will come into the picture, right? I will definitely showcase that as well. But for now, let's keep it simple and focus. Our main focus is to just make the test working, right? And understand the structure of the test. So this is the URL, this is the method, and this is the path. And this is the schema that it's running on. And then it basically accepts everything, right? So you don't need to be very specific about it. So once this is done, then the status that I should receive should be 200. So if I need to run this test, I'm going to go to the user runner where I am going to add JUnit 5 karate. This is the decorator, which means that it is a test. And then I'm adding the test users as a function on running the users.feature file, right? So the users.feature file is located here, and this is my runner. So I can, because I'm running JUnify, I can directly run my test from here. So if I click on run, it's gonna do a build. It's gonna run from line 1 to 7, and it's gonna show me the status, right? So let's see what this means, right? What it ran, right? So the first thing that it did was it sent a request to the server, and the request is on this host, and this is the request details, right? So we are doing a GET request on this URL, which is basically your URL plus your path, right? And our host is basically this, which we have mentioned as URL, right? And these are the headers that it has sent and the response that it has received. So I've received this response, right? So the ultimate result is the feature we ran on users.feature. It had one scenario, it passed one scenario, right? Now, let's see if, so reading from here is a little difficult. So what Karate does is it provides you a report, HTML report. So if I open this in Chrome, so it's going to show me what happened, right? So this is the reporting that that by default Karate provides. You can definitely include this in or integrate this with different platforms. But for now, let's keep it simple. So this is my background, which is the URL, and given path users, when method get. So when I'm doing a method get, I'm getting this, right? So these are my headers and my request details. This is my response details, right? And I'm getting a status of 200. And these are my response details. Then status is 200 because we have already received the status as 200. 200 means success. And this is the header that we have sent. And then the response, and we check the status for it, right? So this test passed because the status was 200, and that's what we were testing. Now, let's add one more step to it, right? What we have received is this response, right? So let me modify it further, right? So what we have received is this response. Now what I want to do is I want to get the first user by ID, right? So what I'm doing is so when I do a star, which means You don't have to write given when then, but this is necessary as a step to execute, right? DEF is the definition, right? Which is your variable. So the first, I'm assigning the response 0 to a variable called first, right? So a response 0 uh, means the first element, because the index starts with 0, the first element of the list. The first element is this, right? Which starts with the ID, right? So this is my first element, right? Now I can use this, because since JSON is already parsed and it's native to the syntax, now fetching these details is going to be really simple. So what I'm doing is I'm fetching the response, not as a whole response. I'm fetching the first item of that response, which is this, right? Now, once I fetch this item, and then I'm giving the path users, and I'm using the ID for this, right? So the ID is 1, right? And the method, when I'm using get, it's going to return the status as 200. So let's execute this and I'll explain once the response is back. So let's execute this, right? And let's see what it does. So let's look at the report, right? And let's refresh this. So now, if you look here, right? HTTPS JSON placeholder typecode users 1, right? Which is the ID. So what we have done here in the feature file, we added the path users, and we provided the first ID, right? So if I hit this, let's hit this in the, so I'm getting the first user, right? I'm getting the first user, and these are the details of the first user, right? Now I can validate whatever I want to validate with this user, but I'm only validating the status for now, right? So now what happened, if you look here, right? So the first thing that we did was we got all the users, right? By hitting a path, which is the user's path. Once we received the response, we saved the first element of the response, right? And we defined it as a variable called first, right? So the first element, which was this element, sorry, which was this element, we saved it. This is response 0 because this is the first element and the index starts with 0. We stored this in a variable called first, and we used its ID, right? Which is ID 1, right? And then what we did was we used this ID and attached it to the path users and used a method get to see what comes. And what we tested was that the status should be 200. Now let's change this to response 1. So this means the second element, right? Now if I execute this, and look at the report, so if you look at this, the ID returned is 2, right? Now we can validate different kind of checks based on what kind of test it is written. There might be a test saying that for the ID2, the name should be Urban Howell, right? Now it depends on what kind of test you're writing. You can add those and keep your scenarios meaningful, right? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a post request as well, right?
Hey, Sumit.
Yeah.
Just wanted to let you know, some of them have asked how long this session goes. So I'm sure that you have registered in the Eventbrite. This topic, karate API testing, is scheduled for 4 weeks. Even though in the Eventbrite it says 6 weeks, it's scheduled for 4 weeks. So Sumit will be taking 4 1-hour sessions, and the first 1-hour session is today, and the remaining 3 will happen in the subsequent weeks, same time at the Wednesday 7 to 8 p.m. Right? Just wanted to clarify that. Also wanted to remind you, join the WhatsApp link and send your names, and we will add you into the Microsoft Teams so you can collaborate before and after. Plus, please remember, it's a people-led grassroots movement. So if you wanted to train and pitch in, Smith was listening last time. Now he's training. So a lot of people come, learn, train, and try to collaborate as much as you all can to help each other. Whatever the expertise you have, please reach out and share with the community. Thanks a lot, guys. Sumit, over to you. Sumit, are you there? Hello, you are muted, Sumit. Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Some audio problem. All right. So what we're going to do in the next one is we're going to send a post request. So we're going to add a user to that page, right? Previously, we only got the information that was already there. Now, what we're going to do in this scenario is we're going to add a new user to that list. And once we add a new user to the list, we want to get the ID of that user. So that's the test, right? So the scenario is create a user and then get it by ID, right? So in order to add a user, I need to provide details of that user, right? So the name I have to provide a username, email, address. I am not providing the ID. The reason being that ID is auto-generated. It should, whenever you create something, you do get a response back that something is created. But sometimes when you are doing adding it to the database, right? So any post request that goes either goes in a transitional environment where you might not need a hard commit back, which is auto-generated, or you do it in the database where you need a hard commit, where you do get the response back on what is created, basically a unique identifier. One thing is that you can enter it manually through your post request, but sometimes when there are things like IDs and customer numbers, they are auto-generated, right? So here in this case as well, that ID is going to be auto-generated. So we're going to get that ID, right? So again, what we did was we added a native JSON here by providing the user details. And then we use the same URL and we did a request, which is a user request, which is this. So this request is going to be your JSON body. So in general, when you do any post, you need a body to send, right? In Postman also, when you do a post, it asks what you are going to post, right? You need those details of the post. And then we are going to use the method post. And the status should be 201, right? Once we did this commit, we're gonna get a response back, right? That response will contain that ID, right? So we're gonna get a response back. We're gonna fetch the ID from that response. So in this case, it's gonna be really simple because again, you don't have to parse the JSON, it's already parsed. You just have to get that element from the JSON, right? And then you're gonna print the created ID is the ID number, which is this variable, right? So let's run this test now. So now because there are two scenarios, it's going to run twice, right? So it's going to run two tests. All right. So the test is completed. I'm going to refresh it. And now there are two tests that were run. The first one is this that we ran earlier. And now we did a post request, right? So if you look at this, right? So this is the body that we sent, which was the JSON that we identified before, right? So we are posting on this URL. We are posting this body, and we're getting a response back 201, and this is the response that we received. So if you look here, it's giving me an additional value of ID, which is 11, right? And then I matched it with the status, which was 201, and then I printed the ID. So the print is created ID is 11, which is this value. Clear?
Yes.
Now what we're going to do next is we're going to add something, right? So we got the ID back, but we're not testing anything here, right? Apart from the status. So we're going to use two more methods. The one is assert. So let's do this. So we know, if we already know what the ID is going to be, we're gonna assert if the ID is 11, and we're gonna define another variable, which is the response, right? So I'm gonna give the name as RESP. So we're gonna match the whole response rather than just the ID which we are asserting. We're going to match the whole response. So let's assume in your project, you already know what the response is going to be, right? And you want to match that response. So this is exactly what I'm getting, which I picked from here, right? From the test itself. So I can directly pick it from here. So the developer says that the response is going to be this only, right? It's not going to change. And it's a static response. So in that case, we're gonna mention it here, and then we're gonna match it, right?
Sumit, time tap. We are 8 minutes. So
yep, give me 2 more minutes, and then we'll open it for questions. So the ID that we are fetching is from response.id, and now we are matching the whole response to previously defined response. And then we are also asserting that ID is going to be 11. So we are doing two things. We are asserting, we are doing a match, right? So the match is your bodies, right? So it can be your first element of your response, but it has to be a body, right? And asserting is the values, right? So the ID is going to be 11, right? So asserting is basically your values and matching is your body. So let's run this one more time. Right now, once we go look at the test again, now we'll have two other rows, which is ID and response, and these two pass as well. So the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to change the assertion from 11 to 10 and see if it fails or it still passes. Right, so it failed. Now we're going to check here what failed exactly and how the reports. So it tells me that assert evaluated to false, ID is equal to 10, where ID was already mentioned as 11, but the assertion has failed because the value is not matching with the ID. Right? So we're gonna get those kind of reports, and then we can look at how we're gonna integrate with other reporting frameworks. We're gonna talk about it in our next sessions. But today's session was the basic setup. We can also run it through command lines. We can also run these two tests in parallel rather than in sequence. So we're going to talk about advanced features in the next sessions. So the next session will be on the advanced features. After that, the third session is going to be on the framework, and the fourth session is going to be on the CI/CD deployments, right? So this is how the sessions are structured. The first one is the basic, the second one is the advanced features, the third one is the framework, and the fourth one is the CI/CD integration. So we're gonna go slowly one by one step at a time. So what I would request you guys to do is create a project, run some tests that you think are either from your project or from open source APIs. You can pick up anything, but just try to set this up once and see if you're able to execute one test. That should be more than enough to set up a basic test environment and how to run. And then we'll talk about the advanced features and other parts in our next session.
Awesome, Sumit. Guys, one more thing I want to tell you. Whatever the file Sumit is doing, Sumit, you will be putting it in the GitHub, right?
Yes, I will be.
Yeah, so though I'm pretty sure most of you have our GitHub access, and for those who don't have the GitHub access, please send your GitHub ID as well, right? Even in this chat or in the WhatsApp, so we will add you in. These are all some of the governance that we need to do. This is applicable only for those who are new, right? Just making sure I repeat again, WhatsApp link is there. Join the WhatsApp, send your name and email address. We'll add you into the Teams. And in the Teams is like a Slack. You can collaborate with everyone. Then we will send also your GitHub ID in the Teams or in the WhatsApp. We'll add you into the GitHub ID. So these are all some of the things from the governance point of view to get you on board, so you can learn and also teach others to learn. The next 3 sessions, Sumit will be taking on this karate for API testing. And in fact, every Codeathon is 6 sessions, but Sumit has organized it for 4 sessions. But what we can do is the remaining 2 sessions, if you are interested, you can build your own project. And if you have any questions and things like that, we can help you out on the remaining 2 sessions, right? So that's the thought process. That's the governance. I hope it's pretty clear to everyone. So having said that, I will open the floor. We have 3 minutes. If you have any questions on the governance or on the technical things, feel free to ask. You can unmute and ask, or you can type it in the chat, whichever you feel comfortable.
So any questions on the understanding of the basic test?
Yes, first of all, Kader and Sumit, let me thank you guys because it is very wonderful and it will help the whole community to learn the new things. And Sumit, the tool is very interesting. I have got few questions, Sumit. Do you mind answering?
Sure, go ahead.
Can you show the screen again, please?
While Sumit is showing it, guys, we have done in the last year again 4 or 5 test automation Codeathon sessions. Everything is in the YouTube. You can go to YouTube and search Testoper, subscribe, and you can listen to. We have almost like 60, 70 sessions we have done last year. You can listen to them and learn more if you want to. Okay, over to you, Madhu. Please ask questions.
Yeah. My first question is. What happens if a step fails, Sumit? The further steps won't run?
So if you look here in the report, right, this step didn't run.
Okay.
So
Okay.
because the assertion failed in the beginning itself, so this step didn't run. But there is a configuration setting in Karate that will allow you to run the next steps as well. So it's up to you. By default, the next steps will not run because it doesn't make sense to run anything after that. But there is a setting in Karate that you can set it in config that even if so that's called the concept of soft assertion. So basically, even if the assertion fails or any step fails, it will still continue moving forward. Okay. I would not recommend it, but because then you will be hard pressed to figure out the exact cause of failure, and then you won't be able to use that value, that body. So let's assume you have 2 linked tests, right? So here what I've done is I've linked 2 things, right? So I'm getting, so the tests are not going to be a straight one line scenarios, right? I'm telling you, it's gonna be multiple given when thens, and you will be getting responses fetching those details from one test and moving on to the other. So all the corresponding tests will fail as well, right? It will be hard for you to debug, but there are times when I also use soft assertion where I knew that this will fail, or most likely it's going to be fail, especially if I'm doing a match. So let's assume I'm doing a match, right? I'm not worried about this ID because this is dynamic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if tomorrow it changes to 12, I don't mind changing it to 12 because that's not what I'm trying to assert. So my life is easier if this assertion is a soft assert. Now the challenge with that is I cannot segregate this 11 only, right? I either has to put a asterisk in order to make it any value, and then if this assertion itself fails, it's better that I find it out why it failed, and then running the test and debugging if this failed, why that failed, and the next steps failed, right? So it's going to be difficult for anyone to see all the steps failing rather than just seeing one step failing.
Yeah, makes sense, Sumit. Yeah.
But definitely there is a configuration setting that you can set in Karate so that those assertions will not fail.
Perfect.
Okay.
Team, if you have additional questions, you can put it in chat or make a note of it to continue in the next session, considering respecting the time of everyone in the call. Makes sense, Madhu?
Sure, Kader, I won't take much time. I have a connecting question. Just let me finish it faster.
Sure.
Yeah. Sumit, I see you're passing a value from get call to post call. Will it be possible to change that? Usually post will go with a body, right? A JSON
Right.
kind of body.
Right.
But from the get, some element you have taken and you can append it as a variable and use it in post.
Yes,
That
you
should
can.
be
Yes, you
possible
can.
somewhere.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Oh, okay, got it. I'm done. Thanks, Sumit, and thanks,
Thank
Kadir.
Thank you very much, Madhu, for respecting the time. Guys, we are also starting another Codeathon session this Sunday, Cloud Fundamentals, very basics of cloud. So someone wants to learn basics of clouds and cloud fundamentals, you can register them. And that session goes for six Saturdays, 10 to 11, if I'm not wrong, right? Saturday, not Sunday, apologies. Right? So you can look it up in the Eventbrite and you will know more about it. And if you want to learn entrepreneurship and want to build something, you're also welcome to join the Testoper project that happens every Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. All the programs that we do are in the Eventbrite and in the meetup. You're welcome to go and look it up and join, learn, and also please come to teach. Right? Take care, guys. Have a wonderful evening.
Just a couple of things, right? So you guys, I will be posting this whole project in the GitHub and sending you the link. And secondly, any questions that you have, you can still send it on the chat, and I'll answer that as soon as possible. I'll try to do that. So if you are facing any troubles, trouble downloading the project or running the project, shoot me a message and I'll help you on that. All right, that's pretty much it from my side. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, everyone. See you next Wednesday.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a wonderful evening, guys. Bye.
Thank you.